Unit 3, great jobs. Great jobs. We will be studying lessons 3, 4, 5, and 6. The learning aims or learning objects of today's lesson are to read an article about ancient Egyptian doctors and to see how interesting the information they found thousands of years ago. Number 2, you will read the text about heroes and you will have an opportunity to talk about your own hero. Number 3, you will listen to a talk about family history and we will know what is the meaning of the word family history. You will discuss what you are proud of. And of course, we revise used to. We will learn about some work values. Okay, it's time for speaking now. Let's work together and let's discuss about family history. Do you know much about your family history? If so, what things or what information do you know about your family members? Would you like to learn more about your family history? And if so, why is this? Okay, what can you see at this picture? Yes, there are photos, right? They are old photos. These might be photos of your grandparents, right? Okay. So, what do you mean by family history? Family history is collecting information about your parents, sisters, brothers, children, grandparents, and uncles, any family member. And by doing or tracing family roots back, it can help a person to connect more deeply, okay, with sense of self by learning about your family past, where they came from, who they were, what they did, the dreams they had, and their achievements. Imagine how interesting to know and information about your great grandparent. It's very interesting. Okay, now it's time for listening. And while listening to Yasser talking about his family history, I want you to answer these questions. Before listening, I want you to read question number 1 and 2. Which person in Yasser's family he's talking about? What job did the person do? So are you ready now to listen to Yasser talking about his family history? Okay, let's start.
Exercise 3. Listen to Yasser talking about his family history and answer the questions.
I didn't used to know very much about my family history. Then, last week, I did a school project about someone in my family. So I did some research and I found out some really interesting things about my great-grandfather. I knew he used to be a doctor, but I didn't know he worked for a charity. My great-grandfather used to live in the countryside, and he worked as a volunteer doctor for the Red Crescent when there was a natural disaster or a health emergency. For example, when there was an earthquake, my great-grandfather went to help. The work was difficult and sometimes scary. He also used to look after people who didn't have much money. I feel very proud of him.
Okay, back again after listening to Yasser talking about someone in his family. So, who was Yasser talking about? Yes, I can hear you. Yasser was talking about his great grandfather. Excellent job. Okay, what about number 2? What job did the person do? Yes, he worked as a volunteer doctor for the Red Crescent, right? Wow, you did a great job here. So now you will be listening again to the same audio, but this time you will be answering questions of exercise 4. And before listening, I want you to read the questions from 1 to 5. Hold your pencils and while listening, write down your answers. Let's start.
4. Listen again. Complete the sentences.
I didn't used to know very much about my family history. Then, last week, I did a school project about someone in my family. So I did some research and I found out some really interesting things about my great-grandfather. I knew he used to be a doctor, but I didn't know he worked for a charity. My great-grandfather used to live in the countryside, and he worked as a volunteer doctor for the Red Crescent when there was a natural disaster or a health emergency. For example, when there was an earthquake, my great-grandfather went to help. The work was difficult and sometimes scary. He also used to look after people who didn't have much money. I feel very proud of him.
Okay, so Yasser feels very proud of his great-grandfather, don't you agree? Okay, so let's check together your answers. Have you written them on a piece of paper? Yes, well done. Let's check your answers. So, Yasser's great-grandfather lived in the countryside. Excellent. He was A for the Red Crescent. He was a volunteer doctor for the Red Crescent. Number 4, he helped when there was a disaster or a health emergency. Excellent. Yasser is very of his great-grandfather. Yasser is very proud. Yes, well done. Now, I want you to think of a family member that you are proud of. This member could be your father, your mother, your grandfather, your elder brother, whoever he is. Think, why are you proud of him? Try to write down some notes. Excellent. Let's move. Why do you think Yasser is proud of his great-grandfather? Why do you think Yasser is proud of his great-grandfather? Well, Yasser thinks that his great-grandfather did great work. He worked as a volunteer doctor for the Red Crescent. When there was an earthquake, his grandfather went to help. Moreover, he used to look after people who didn't have much money. Now, I want you to think of your own hero, okay, of your own family member that I told you to write down some notes about him while reading Yasser's points for the admiration.